You spat on an elderly woman in the grocery store because she asked you to move your cart out of the aisle. Not figuratively, you literally spat directly in her face. And then when store security approached you, you laughed. You actually laughed at her. She was 73 years old, humiliated, crying, and you thought it was funny. That's what brought you to my courtroom today. That's the act of degradation that I need to address right now. That's what I need you to understand right from the start. This isn't about a minor infraction. This isn't about you breaking some arbitrary rule that doesn't matter. You assaulted an elderly woman with one of the most degrading acts one human being can inflict on another. You violated her dignity in front of dozens of people. You humiliated her in public, and then you came in here acting like I owe you an apology for making you answer for it. That's the attitude that's really troubling me. After 40 years on this bench, I thought I'd seen everything. I thought there was nothing left that could shake my faith in human decency. But your behavior, not just what you did, but your attitude about it, that's something that genuinely troubles me, because you're not here with remorse. You're not here broken and seeking redemption. You're here defensive, dismissive, and absolutely convinced that you did nothing wrong. And that's the real problem. That's what tells me who you are right now. Let me tell you what I've learned after 4 decades of judging cases. I've learned that there's always a reason behind what people do. I've learned that compassion and understanding are the only things that actually change people. I've learned to put myself in the shoes of the person standing before me, to see their humanity even in their worst moments. Those principles have guided every decision I've made from this bench. I've built my entire career on compassion, but compassion is a two-way street. It requires acknowledgement from the other person. It requires some shred of self-awareness. It requires recognition that you've harmed someone, and I'm not seeing any of that from you. Here's what I think happened to you, and I want you to listen carefully because I'm not trying to be cruel. I think at some point in your life, multiple adults failed you. They failed to teach you boundaries. They failed to teach you that your actions affect other people. They failed to teach you that the world has rules and standards that apply to everyone, regardless of who you think you are. They failed to hold you accountable when you should have been held accountable. They failed in their fundamental responsibility to raise you into a functional human being. And instead of recognizing that as their failure, you interpreted it as a sign that you're special, that you're different, that normal rules don't apply to you because you've never experienced them applying to you before. That's a fundamental misunderstanding of how the world actually works, and it's going to destroy your life if you don't correct it. I've spent 4 decades in this courtroom listening to people explain their worst moments. I've heard sob stories, I've heard excuses, I've heard people blame their circumstances, their upbringing, their friends, the system, their parents, God. And sometimes those excuses have genuine merit. Sometimes those stories are genuinely heartbreaking. I've sat here and wept for the suffering some people have endured. I've listened to people describe poverty, abuse, addiction, loss, real tragedies that shape them. But you know what I've learned? The people who actually deserve compassion, the ones who genuinely need help, they don't come in here demanding it with this kind of attitude. They come in here broken. They come in here recognizing they've failed themselves and others. They come in here willing to change. They come in here with humility. They understand that their circumstances don't excuse their choices. You came in here acting like I owe you something, like my job is to validate your choices, like there's something unreasonable about making you face consequences for spitting in an elderly woman's face. And that's where I have to draw the line with you, because I have a responsibility that extends far beyond just you. I have a responsibility to the community. I have a responsibility to that elderly woman whose dignity you violated in front of dozens of witnesses. I have a responsibility to the standards we maintain as a society. I have a responsibility to send a clear message that there are boundaries, that there are consequences, that no matter how convinced you are that you can do whatever you want, there are limits. Do you understand what you actually did? You didn't just break a rule. You engaged in a disgusting act of degradation. You treated a human being as if she was beneath you, as if her dignity didn't matter. You violated her in a way that will stick with her. She's probably thinking about what happened every time she goes to the grocery store now. She's probably anxious about going out in public. You did that to her. And the fact that you think this is funny, the fact that you're sitting there with that smirk on your face, that tells me everything I need to know about who you are right now. Not who you could be, who you actually are in this moment. But here's the thing about compassion that I've learned. It's not about lowering standards. It's not about saying, well, everyone makes mistakes, so let's just let this slide. That's not compassion. That's enabling. Real compassion is about understanding someone well enough to help them understand themselves. It's about holding people accountable in a way that actually reaches them, in a way that might actually force them to confront who they're becoming. And I'm going to do that for you today, but it requires something from you. It requires willingness to see yourself clearly even when it's painful, It requires honesty. It requires you to stop defending yourself and start examining yourself. I want to tell you about a young man who came into my courtroom about 2 years ago. He'd made a serious mistake, not spitting on anyone, but still something serious, still wrong. When he walked in, I could see immediately that he understood the weight of what he'd done. His hands were shaking. His voice was quiet. There was genuine pain in his eyes. He wasn't making excuses. He wasn't acting like the world owed him something. He was standing there with authentic remorse, real recognition of what he'd done. We talked, and I explained to him that accountability isn't just about punishment. It's about growth. It's about becoming someone better than you were before. It's about transformation and redemption. Last year, I ran into him at a coffee shop. He'd completely turned his life around. He'd gone back to school. He'd gotten a good job. He'd apologized to the people he'd hurt. He'd made restitution. He'd done the actual work of becoming a different person. Most importantly, he'd become someone that people actually want to be around. He got married. He's thinking about having kids. He told me that conversation in my courtroom changed his perspective on everything. He said he realized he was heading down a path of destruction, and sometimes we need someone to hold up a mirror and show us who we're becoming. He said accountability saved his life. That's what I do. That's what this system does when it works correctly, but it requires something from you. And right now I'm looking at someone who is actively avoiding that mirror. You're defensive, you're dismissive, you're acting like you're the victim here, like I'm the one being unfair to you. But let me be very direct. The only person being unfair to you is you. You're the one who's unfair to yourself because you have so much potential. You have your whole life ahead of you. You could do extraordinary things. You could be someone that people respect and admire. You could be someone that people love. You could accomplish things. You could matter. Or you could keep going down this path of entitlement and arrogance, making disgusting choices and wondering why nobody wants to be around you. That's your choice. I want you to understand something about human dignity because I think that's what you're fundamentally missing. Every single person has intrinsic value. Every single person deserves to be treated with respect. That elderly woman deserved respect. Your mother deserves respect. Your friends deserve respect. The people you encounter every day deserve respect. And when you engaged in what you did, you weren't just breaking a law. You were violating that fundamental principle. You were treating that elderly woman as though her dignity didn't matter. You were saying through your actions that you think you're above basic human decency, and that's a spiritual problem. That's something that goes way deeper than anything I can address with a fine or a judgment. It's a problem with your soul, with your conscience, with your character. You know what my faith teaches me? It teaches me that people can change, that no one is beyond redemption, that even the worst of us deserve a chance to become better. But that change has to come from within you. I can't force it on you. I can't make you understand something you're not willing to see. I can't make you feel remorse. All I can do is present you with a choice. You can continue down this path, convinced that you're special and the rules don't apply to you, or you can have a genuine moment of self-reflection and ask yourself why you made these choices. Why did you spit on that woman? What was going through your head? Was she really a threat to you, or did you just think she was beneath you? The legal system gives me certain tools. I can impose fines. I can impose community service. I can impose probation. I can impose restrictions on your conduct. I can order counseling. I can recommend therapy. I can require you to write an apology letter to that woman to really think about what you did, but none of those things will actually change you if you don't want to change. That's something I've learned after 40 years. The law can punish behavior, but it can't transform hearts. Only you can do that. Only you can decide to become someone different than who you are right now. And here's what really gets to me about cases like yours. I know what your future looks like if you don't change. I've seen it 100 times. It's not pretty. It's not the world owes me everything story you're probably telling yourself. It's a story of isolation. It's a story of people getting tired of being treated disrespectfully and cutting you out of their lives. It's a story of opportunities missed because your reputation precedes you. It's a story of becoming someone that nobody wants to be around and you can't figure out why. And the worst part is you'll blame everyone else instead of looking in the mirror. You'll convince yourself that everyone is against you when the truth is much simpler and much more painful. Nobody wants to be around someone who treats people the way you do. Let me ask you something. If I ask 10 people who know you well, your family, your friends, people who've spent time with you, and I ask them to describe your character, what would they say? Would they describe someone generous, kind, trustworthy, someone who thinks about others, someone who treats elderly people with respect? Or would they describe someone selfish, someone who thinks rules are for other people, someone who doesn't care how her actions affect others, someone who is primarily concerned with herself because that's what your behavior tells me? That's the story you're writing with every choice you make. And the terrifying part is that you seem to think you're the hero of your own story, but the truth is you're actually the antagonist in your own life. You're the obstacle standing in the way of your own success. You're the thing preventing yourself from becoming who you could be. You're sabotaging yourself and you don't even realize it. I need to be honest about something else. The level of entitlement I'm seeing from you, this absolute certainty that you can do whatever you want, that's not an accident. That's been cultivated. Someone in your life or multiple people have failed you by not providing boundaries. They've failed you by not teaching you that the world doesn't revolve around you. They've failed you by not explaining that treating people with respect isn't optional. It's fundamental to living in a society with other human beings. And because of that failure, you've developed this distorted view of yourself and your place in the world. But here's the thing, you don't have to stay there. Even though someone failed to teach you these lessons, you can still learn them. Even though you've developed these harmful patterns, you can still change them. Even though you came in here with this attitude, you don't have to leave here with it. This can be a moment of transformation if you're willing to let it be. This can be the moment where everything changes. I'm going to make a decision about your case in a moment. I'm going to impose consequences because that's my responsibility as a judge. But I want you to know that I'm not doing this because I'm angry with you. I'm not doing this because I enjoy punishing people. I'm doing this because sometimes the most compassionate thing an authority figure can do is hold someone accountable in a way that actually reaches them. Sometimes the kindest response to harmful behavior is to say, no, this is not acceptable, and here's why it matters. Sometimes tough love is the only love that can actually help someone. You have so much time ahead of you. You have so many opportunities to become someone amazing. You have the ability to develop genuine relationships, to contribute meaningfully to society, to find real happiness and fulfillment. But none of that happens if you keep operating from this place of entitlement. None of that happens if you keep thinking you're above the basic standards of human decency. None of that happens if you keep dismissing the concerns of people who actually care about you and want better for you. The choice is yours. You can walk out of here today and continue exactly as you've been, convinced that the world will eventually bend to your will, or you can have a genuine moment of self-reflection and ask yourself if that's really the path you want to be on. Because I can tell you with absolute certainty, after 40 years of seeing how these stories play out, that entitlement doesn't lead anywhere good. It leads to loneliness. It leads to regret. It leads to a lifetime of wondering why people don't seem to like you or respect you, when the answer is actually very simple and very clear. So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to hold you accountable for what you did. I'm going to impose consequences that reflect the seriousness of your actions, but I'm also going to do something else. I'm going to recommend counseling because I think you need to talk to someone who can help you understand why you made these choices. I'm going to ask you to perform community service because I think you need to be confronted with the reality of how other people live and how much they contribute to society without acting like the world owes them anything. And most importantly, I'm going to ask you to really think about the person you're becoming. Because right now, at this moment, you have a choice. You can be someone who learns from this experience, who grows from it, who becomes better and more thoughtful and more respectful. Or you can be someone who resents this experience, who thinks I'm being unfair, who doubles down on the belief that the world is against you. And I'm telling you right now that one of those paths leads somewhere good and the other path leads absolutely nowhere good. I believe in redemption. I believe in second chances. I believe in the fundamental goodness of people even when they're acting their worst. But redemption requires something from the person being redeemed. It requires honesty with yourself. It requires willingness to change. It requires genuine recognition that you've done wrong and that you want to do better. My question for you is this. Are you capable of that? Are you willing to have that kind of honest conversation with yourself? Or are you going to continue living in this fantasy where you're special and the rules don't apply to you and eventually everything's going to work out because you're somehow above the normal consequences that everyone else faces? That's the real judgment happening here today. Not my judgment, not the judgment of this court system, but your judgment of yourself. And that's the judgment that's actually going to determine your future. I'm just here to tell you that I believe you can do better if you want to. I'm just here to tell you that there's a path forward that doesn't involve more disgust and more disrespect and more certainty that you can do whatever you want. I'm just here to tell you that the world needs good people, and you could be one of them if you're willing to make that choice. So that's what I'm giving you today. Not just a sentence, but an opportunity to prove to yourself that you're capable of change, an opportunity to become someone that people actually respect and want to be around, an opportunity to build a life that's meaningful instead of one that's characterized by entitlement and disappointment. The question is whether you're brave enough to take it, because it is going to be hard. It is going to require you to confront some very uncomfortable truths about yourself and your behavior. It's going to require you to admit that you were wrong. It's going to require you to change how you see yourself in the world. But I genuinely believe you're capable of it. Now you just have to believe it too.